Now let's continue our discussion about the View menu and talk about layout badges. One of the reasons I've given it its own section is because layout badges are more prominent in FileMaker 11 than ever before. In fact, there's already a layout badge on the screen right now. It's called Quick Find. And you'll notice that this tells you that this field is included in the Quick Find. In fact, all fields are defaulted to that. If you go into the inspector and you decide, I don't want the email field to be searched, I can come in here and uncheck it. And you see the little layout badge goes away. So these little layout badges can really help you identify what's going on in your layout. Because sometimes you might copy a field from one layout to another and not realize it's not included inside of the Quick Find. You want it in the Quick Find on this layout. Or many of the other features. You may not realize it has a script trigger on it or things like that. So we're going to go in here and show where this option is. Here is Quick Find. If I uncheck that, all these go away. I have no idea they're included in the Quick Find or not. That's why you want to probably have these on, and not all of them are on. If we go through them, you'll see there's one for buttons. There's one for sample data. We'll come back to buttons in a second. Let's look at sample data. It's interesting because what it does is shows you, instead of the field name, it shows you sample data from a record. So you can decide, is this field big enough? Do I need to make it bigger? Sometimes you can't really judge it. You can find yourself going from browse to layout to browse to layout, resizing it, when you can just use that feature. So I like that one a lot. I'll turn that one off because that's when I toggle on and off a lot. And then we have text boundaries. Well, look at what happens to your labels. They get little gray lines around them. That can help if you have your text block bigger than the actual text in it. It may help to decide whether this is going to be big enough of a text block for cross-platform, because fonts are a little bit bigger on Windows. So you might need to make your text blocks a little bit bigger. So it might help you in that case. We'll go back in here. I typically don't keep that one on, so I'll turn it off. Now if we go in here and turn off field boundaries, look what happens. Okay, so all these things can help you identify objects. I kind of like the field boundaries. I'm used to that one, so I'll keep it on there. Then we have sliding objects. Well, we're not going to really see that until we cover our printing area, because you can say this object might have a paragraph, it might have a page of text. I need it to slide up to reduce that field size to just the text that's in it. And so this sliding objects will show you that that object has sliding on it, and it'll show some little arrows either up or pointing to the left. So it's up to you whether you have this on or not, but we won't really cover it until later. Then you have non-printing objects. Those also go along with sliding objects, and they're objects that will not print out. And it's important. You go, why isn't this printing out? I don't know why. Well, if you have that layout badge on, you can really tell very easily. Then we have a lot of the new ones. Here's the conditional formatting one. We also have the quick find one. Now script triggers were introduced in the previous version, and tooltips. All those are very handy, and they're used in very high-end features, so we're not going to really see them come up right now. We haven't gotten to all these features. But when we do conditional formatting, we'll be able to instantly tell. We'll see that layout badge show up. When we do script triggers, we'll see the layout badge show up on that object, so you know that if you're taking it from one layout to another, that there's a trigger attached to it, and maybe we don't want a trigger on this layout. And tooltips are nice. We're actually going to cover that one real quick so you can see it. The way I'm going to cover is I'm going to take this category field and delete the label, and then move this up here. I'm actually going to make this into a drop-down list. I've decided I like that better, and it'll be better if we add a fourth category anyhow. So we'll open up the inspector, and we'll come in here and we'll scroll up, and we'll change it into a drop-down list with one of these arrows to show and hide. There we go. Make it a little bit smaller. There we go, right there. Move it down a little bit. And I want you to show you something also. Just take a little tangent here for a minute. Notice that it's inside of this area that doesn't seem to be part of the tab control. But when you switch to shipping, notice that it disappears. Well, that's because it's actually this object extends all the way over here. I want it to show up whether we're in shipping or billing so we can see it all the time. It has nothing to do with billing or shipping, but I want it to be close by. So I'm going to move it up just outside of it. You have to keep testing it until it works. 1 pixel up. Is it still there? No, not yet. Move it up again. There we go. We finally got it in a spot that works well. So now that it doesn't have a field label, we're going to go ahead and put a tooltip on here. We're going to do a very basic tooltip because we're going to cover them more extensively later. I just wanted to do this to show you the layout badge and to show you a way you can use a tooltip so you can save space, because there's really not enough space here for a label and it just doesn't make sense. So let's go ahead and set our tooltip. And you got to remember, one of the things you always forget is you go back to the way you always did things. And tooltips used to be under here. And I was going, where are they? Well, remember, as I haven't, that they are now included underneath this inspector tool. So now we've got to go ahead and find the tooltips here and remind ourselves where they are. And I believe the tooltips are in appearance here. Let's see if I've got that right. There they are. So once I get myself fully trained on this, I'll be using this very quickly and know exactly where to go and almost do it without thinking. I still haven't quite gotten there yet. So with that field selected, we're going to go in here and type in enter a category. And notice I put it in quotes. That's because this is actually a calculation. But a calculation can be very simple, just something enclosed in quotes. And that says don't put the quotes in there, just put the text in there. But we'll cover calculations and more complicated tooltips later on. So we've got it set up. We can close this. And now you can see that little badge showing up. Now you know when you move this from one layout to other or duplicate it and change it to another field that it has a tooltip on it, you have to change that tooltip or remove it. These can be very handy. And let's see how that tooltip works real quickly. If I hover over it for a second, it brings up a little help section. Enter a category. And it can be as long as you want. I just did a real quick short one here. So don't disregard the layout badges. Remember they're there. They can be extremely helpful when you have all this stuff on the layout, all of these objects, and you don't know what options are attached to them. They can quickly tell you, oh, there's a tooltip there, and give you a warning, essentially, in my opinion. It's really a warning that, hey, if I take this and duplicate this field or any other object, it might have something on it I don't want it when I change it to some other type of object. Because I'm often doing that. I'm saying, okay, let's duplicate that field, change it to something else, and I go, oh, well, I better take that tooltip off because I don't want it. So you'd have to go in here and show your inspector and go into the tooltip section and take that tooltip out. And once you take that out, then you'll see that that badge goes away. And it's just a really great warning system is the way I look at it.